I teach a course, Conflict and Natural Resources, and I want my students to realize that there are different ways to think about problems and different ways to think about their solutions. And the video project was a different way to think about the solutions to these problems and to share their knowledge.
I think of it as kind of the software that makes societies run, so the ideas, the values, the assumptions, the histories, the memories, the symbols, the languages, those kinds of things that allow humans to create knowledge and share it and pass it on and argue about it.
Just to encourage students to really think about how they're constantly using theory and different interpretive tools to kind of make sense of what they see out in the world.
The entire time the course is framed by the question, does it make any sense to do something called feminist philosophy at all? I mean, what could be weirder? Philosophy is supposed to be the kind of unadulterated, pure quest for truth.
I really love organic chemistry, right? I mean, it's something that I do, it's my passion and it's how I make a living. So, for students to find it so repulsive in some ways, right? It's something that I really wanted to do.
What I try to do with my classes in general is just to build in something that levels, that opens multiple ways for different people to come in. I taught 3 courses last spring, and I was using a wiki for one and a blog for another, and I have heard from students that they really like to be able to read each other's writing, because usually we don't do that.
In the humanities, so much of a student's grade kind of is based on writing, but you may only engage with students when you're speaking in class, and so I wanted the students to kind of become familiar with each other as writers, and just to think about what it means to talk about masculinity as something that's both the same but distinct from gender.
There is a challenge in teaching it and organizing the literature to make sure that it's accessible to everybody in the class and challenging to everybody in the class. So for me, I was trying to think of a way to make sure that everybody else saw my students' answers to these hard questions.
A challenge in this class is that you never know who's sitting in the room, what kind of experiences they've had, and what the experience of sitting in this classroom is like for them. So one of the things that's been very helpful to me is to use clickers in that classroom. And then we get a picture of what's going on. Or I'll say, did what I just said make anybody feel uncomfortable? And even if 2 people say they felt uncomfortable, I break them up into small groups and they talk about it. And this creates this incredible sense of trust with this class.
Instead of having the recitation sections that where a teaching assistant lectures, or where students just ask questions, where maybe shyer students won't get a chance to have their sort of concerns raised, I wanted to turn those sessions into problem-solving sessions. It's sort of like a peer-led team learning sort of exercise with the TA as a facilitator. This is what inspired me to use technology in the class, was if I can democratize that process and ask all of the students, what is your number 1 question? And so I use the poll system on Trunk to do that. I make a screencast where I try to re-explain or do some new examples, or maybe do an example problem out of the book that sort of attacks that particular problem that the student population is struggling with. There are 2 lone pairs, and there are 2 bonds to hydrogen.
What I did was use a Prezi, and I made a giant social theory timeline with all of the thinkers with little pictures and keynote notes in it. But what it did was give me a very large visual of the kind of that whole universe of everything that we were thinking about. They're finding ancestors. They're creating genealogies within this larger universe. And what I'm hearing from students who know was that this really did help to kind of ground them.
The thing I'm doing this term in the class that I'm teaching now is using a developing piece of software. It's called Social Book, and the students can annotate the book and put comments on them, and then they can have threads where they're replying to each other's comments. They say things that are free and open, and these kinds of tools, I think, provide students a way of not being experts at it yet, and to ask the kinds of questions they need to ask without feeling intimidated.
The course I'm teaching this semester is Feminist Theory in Education. In lieu of paper, I was also looking for an opportunity for students to get some practice in improving presentation skills. And
Title IX attempted to give females more equal opportunities and more equal funding in the classroom.
The students uploaded videos into Media Markup. Media Markup allows you to kind of annotate the videos And just to kind of take a complex document and kind of conveying that to an audience can be really challenging, but it's such an important skill.
The assignment for this class is to create a video. They could do it on conflict diamonds, which is a lootable resource, meaning you can put it in your pocket, or petroleum, which requires heavy infrastructure to extract.
Now that the South Sudan has cut off oil supplies, China is actually feeling the pinch quite significantly.
This last year, we took it a step further and said, okay, creating the video is now only part of the assignment. What are you going to do with the video? How are we going to use social media to educate people about what you have learned? And how can you use what you've created, this video, to network jobs, to meet interesting people, to share with your parents and their colleagues what you've learned at Tufts University? And the president of Tufts University tweeted out links to 2 of the videos, which was very exciting for the students. And so this is a new tool in how to share your own knowledge and how to use it to market yourself.
The world starts to get lit up in different ways. So, for example, they will see exactly the same molecules, exactly the same things in their visual fields, literally, as they did before. But things start getting salient for them that were not salient before. And this tends to amplify over time. So I often, just today, I heard from a student I had 3 years ago, saying, I now see this everywhere where I never saw it before.
Just knowing exactly what the theories you've been using can help you to kind of organize your thoughts, to kind of see the world in a different way.
It makes it so that the students and I can interact on a much higher level from the beginning, I would say. That is, they've gotten some of this base knowledge, they understand something about what their question is about now, whereas maybe before they would have understood nothing. And so now they understand something, and so the questions can be we can talk at a level which is much more informative, I think, for everybody.
It's very participatory, and in the way that anthropological research encourages us to be participatory and just get in and mix with culture and see how it operates. I think that the technology, if it's used effectively, can give students a sense of, yeah, I'm part of this conversation.